Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
James sent me a story, and it's from Motorious, but I've seen it pop up all over the place at various news aggregators. Man reunited with his stolen 1967 Mustang, and every time I do a story about a stolen car being recovered, I get a couple of the same questions over and over again, which I will address at the end. Johnny Puckett wrote this. It took a few decades, but the man's 1967 Mustang, which was stolen and given a new identity, has been recovered nearly 9 hours away and returned to him. In a story of loss and long-awaited reunion, the man's finally been reunited with his 1967 Mustang nearly 2 decades after it was stolen. Classic car was found about 9 hours away from its original location, marking an end to years of uncertainty and hope for the man. Now, here's the thing. I know people who've had cars stolen that were never found, including a friend of my brother's who had a beautiful, beautiful GTO stolen off the roof of Cobo Hall's parking deck, and that would have been back in the mid-'70s. Still, that car has never turned up. So it's sad. It's. I always, I don't know why, but think of like a pet that disappears, you know? I understand that pets and cars are different, but it's one of those things where you're wondering, like, is it out there somewhere? Is the car out there somewhere? I hope the car's happy. The saga began back in 2002, when the man decided to sell his Mustang. He left it briefly at a friend's house, but the car vanished from there, and of course, without a trace and no payment. So he reported the missing vehicle to the county police, noting its vehicle identification number. For years, he contacted them annually, hoping for news of the whereabouts of the vehicle. But it wasn't until the end of 2023 when a call came from Florida and said, "We think we've got your car." Now, the car was not in the same condition it was in when he last saw it. Somebody pulled the gauge cluster. It was sitting on the passenger seat. It was missing its horn and sporting a new coat of white paint. Don't know what color it was originally, but it had been repainted white. More disturbingly, the Mustang's dashboard VIN plaque had been swapped out for another VIN. That VIN belonged to a car that had been scrapped years and years and years ago. So what happens a lot of times is someone will have a stolen car. They know they can't report that VIN to the DMV to get a registration. So they go to a junkyard and they find a VIN on a vehicle that's either the same make, year, and model and all that, or one that's close. And then they take that VIN and put it on the car. But interestingly, sometimes there are states that track vehicles that get destroyed. So if you take a vehicle out and scrap it, a reputable scrapyard's going to say, we need a copy of the title. And so that's becoming a problem also. Now, I don't know if that was the case back when a 67 Mustang might have been wrecked back, say 69. But further investigation by local police in Florida revealed the original VIN, leading them to contact the county sheriff's department where this man was, who then notified him. Now, despite the joy of the reunion, the car's condition and the circumstances in which it was found show a common issue within the classic car community, and that's VIN swapping. And I've talked about this before, and that's actually what I was mentioning earlier. You take a VIN off another vehicle and put it on the one that you're trying to get away with. Now, of course, where do you get that VIN from? Well, quite often it's from scrapped vehicles. Practice, while sometimes seen as a workaround for titling classic cars that have lost their original documents, can also facilitate the illegal sale of stolen vehicles. And you have to understand, there are federal statutes on the handling of VIN tags. And so if you think, boy, I've got this vehicle, but I don't have the proper paperwork for it, I'm going to go to a junkyard and get a vehicle identification number and just slap it on there and see if I can get away with it. There are all kinds of what we call legalities involved in that. I would not recommend it. So this man's case sheds light on the darker side of classic car restoration and ownership, serving as a cautionary tale about the importance of safeguarding vehicle titles and VINs. And so I've seen too many times vehicles being sold where someone goes, "Well, I haven't got the title. I haven't got the title." Where did the title go? Did somebody have it at one point in time? Now, I've heard of situations where it makes sense that, Grandpa was a pack rat, had mountains of stuff in his house when he passed. We couldn't find the title. Okay, that might make sense, but you could probably get a replacement title, and there's a process for doing that also. So as the man celebrates the return of his long-lost Mustang, his story is a good reminder of the enduring connection between classic cars and their owners and the incredible journeys that these vehicles can endure, both literal and metaphorical. His Mustang had a little adventure there for almost 20 some odd years. So it's a crazy story, but it happens all the time. I've mentioned before, I've represented somebody who bought a car that had the VIN swapped on it, and it was a classic Camaro. And that often happens in this field. And I have something to tell you right now. It's extremely important to understand. If you're buying a vehicle this old and it's costing you a ton of money, do some research and find out where else on that car the VINs exist. Now, some of the earlier cars didn't have it all over the place. Modern cars, it's all over the place. Some older cars, it might only be in one or two other locations. And it's often in a hard to get to or hard to replace location. So I've mentioned before that the Camaro that my client had the VIN stamped on it twice, not counting the tag at the base of the A-pillar. So it was stamped once on a piece of the firewall that was extremely hard to get to, and once inside the driver's side front fender in a place that was also kind of hard to get to. And they do that on purpose because they're thinking, well, if people are going to try to swap out the VINs, to do it successfully, they'll have to swap out these other two hard-to-get-to pieces. I understand they can be swapped, but my point is that every one of these cases I've seen, they swapped the one most obvious VIN and not the others. And so in every case that I've dealt with, if people had simply done their due diligence and looked at those other locations, they would have figured this out. Now, I know people who say, well, I bought the vehicle from a reputable dealer. You'd think they would know. You'd think, but dealers also going to say, well, we have so many vehicles passing through our hands, we haven't got time to go climbing around each and every one of them to verify all the VINs match. I don't know about that, but I've heard that excuse given. But whenever I do a story about a recovered stolen car, I get people typing in the comments going, well, he doesn't get the car back, his insurance company does. And interestingly, there's no mention of an insurance company in this story. And in all the stories I've done, I've never heard of one on a classic car where the insurance company said, oh, that's our car now, dude, you don't get your car back. And so when I said that in a video a couple months ago, I had several people contact me and go, Steve, that's what happened to me. And I go, whoa, what type of car was it? And they go, oh, it was like a brand new something or other. And it was stolen and it was 6 months old. And then they recovered it a week later or a week after the insurance company paid me, okay? And I go, but that's different. I'm talking about a vehicle that was stolen 20, 30, 40 years ago, okay? And it's a classic car. And so here's the two things that come to play. Number one, did the person have insurance for theft, and did they file a claim, and was it paid? Because I know people who didn't have theft coverage whose cars were stolen. So obviously, if you didn't have theft coverage with your insurance and didn't file a claim, the insurance company doesn't get your car. And so I don't know, but people always just jump to the conclusion, they must have had theft, it must have been paid, that means the insurance company gets the car. And I know there's people out there who just love to rain on the parade. They hate to hear a happy story with a good ending, you know? But number one, that's the number one thing. But number two, and I've spoken to people who work with insurance companies who told me this is the case. So let's suppose that you had a car, it's a 67 Mustang, and you had theft coverage on it. And you filed a claim, and the insurance company came back and said, fine, we're going to cut you a check. Here you go. Boom, go away. You got your check. Now, insurance is there to reimburse you. They're not there to buy your car. I understand that many policies say that if they pay off the claim and the car is recovered, they do have the right sometimes to take possession of the car and say the car is ours. However, again, I've spoken to people in the insurance industry, and they tell me that the problem is that if they say that car is ours, if it is ever found, do they then have to claim that that is an asset of the company? And do they have to pay taxes on it or anything? Does it affect their bottom line? Or are they better off saying the car was stolen, never recovered, it might be ours, but it's a total loss, we'd rather take the total loss? And so the real question becomes, did the insurance company take the steps to have the stolen car retitled in their name? And more often than not, apparently they don't. And I think the reason is because why would they want an asset on their books that they can't do anything with? And so if they don't bother retitling the car, what happens is the police recover a car, they find the VIN mismatch, and they go, okay, we got a problem here. They go, the VIN on the dash is actually from a wrecked car, and the VIN stamped elsewhere in the car is from a stolen car. They then contact the DMV at the state where it was last titled and go, oh, turns out it was a stolen car. Who owns it? They then check the title history, and it shows this man. Now, if his insurance company had titled it in their name, they would show up as the last titled owner, which they apparently didn't do in most of these cases I'm talking about, because I've never yet heard of a story where somebody's car from 30, 40 years ago was recovered and then returned to the insurance company. That's never, story has happy ending, car goes back to insurance company. And I don't know why, but people always assume that that's true, and they always want to argue about that. And it's like, well, I got news for you. It doesn't say in here, car returned to insurance company. It says car returned to guy whose car was stolen decades ago. So number one, we don't even know if he had theft insurance. But number two, it looks like he was the last titled owner. And guess what that means? They returned the car to him as the last titled owner. So there you go, James. Thanks for sending it. That's Johnny Puckett writing for Motorious. Man reunited with his stolen 1967 Mustang. It's been a little roughed up, but it's his car. You know how cars are with guys who love their cars. So questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. You cannot unsay a cruel word.